Hello, everyone. Karen Glasser here, and welcome to Connecting People, Changing Lives. I'm so excited. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning to you and to all our viewers. And I want to say Happy Chinese New Year. We've got an amazing start, another start. We get to have two New Years and an amazing super new moon. And it's the most divine time to have our guest with us today. And little did I know when I first talked to her on the phone that she would be on The Bachelor. And so when all of you finally get to see her, you go, oh, yes, we definitely want to know more about her. And I'm going to read just a little bit more about her. With us today is Sephora Kingsbury, who is a groundbreaking love and intimacy mentor who has created a unique practice that blends the spiritual, sexual, and sensual all in one. She has been an integrated breathwork specialist for more than a decade. I love that because breathwork is so important. She has most recently, as I shared, been on The Bachelor, and she'll share more about that, and has a new tagline. She's America's Love Guru, where she did an awakening. I say amazing and awakening intimacy intensive with The Bachelor and his date. And we're going to talk more about that. And at this time, I warmly welcome Sephora Kingsbury. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. I'm really excited and honored and grateful to be here to talk to both of you.
Well, you certainly have gained a lot of traction lately, and I just when Karen and I started our show, and you are actually our very first guest, and very honored that you have the time to be with us because you are in demand, and I've always been so fascinated about, and this is why our title is Connecting People, Changing Lives, the power of connection, and what falls in there, especially with ourselves, our connections, but with others, and that divine intimacy factor, and how that's so distinctive from other, I can't think of the word right now, but how other people connect. So share with us, if you will, a little bit more about what you do as an intimacy mentor.
Yeah. What I was getting from what you said is the world has become so busy and so this daily overstimulation, right? Where we're constantly listening to music, we're sitting in traffic, we're rushing to meetings, we're getting the children off to school, we're constantly in conversations as well. So we become so overstimulated, it's like scratching an itch too much. And then we start to feel disconnected. And what I do is I work with people to develop that connection again, the connection to their body, the connection to their emotions, the connection to their feelings, the deep connection to the world around them. So they actually develop this capacity to not just learn a skill where, oh, I'm going to learn a skill to be intimate, but I'm actually going to start to live every moment like I'm making love to life. Like life becomes an intimate relationship because they develop more presence and awareness and mindfulness and sensitivity.
I love that. That is such a beautiful way to explain that. I totally love that. You know, one of the things that Nancy and I were talking about before you came on is just the whole definition of intimacy. What is intimacy? And is it true that everybody has their own definition?
It seems to be true that everyone makes up their own definition. The way I like to do it is I break down the word intimacy, right? So it's in to me see. So it's every moment allowing ourselves and others to see into us, and for us to see into every situation, no matter what's happening.
That's a great definition. So tell us your journey. I mean, how did you get to here? How did you get to here? How did you get to be doing what you're doing and loving what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely many years of various trainings, but really, to me, the most profound place was when I developed a deeper connection with my own body and my emotions. And I'm going to start really in my youth. When I was 10 years old, I actually got my menstrual cycle at a very young age. And imagine young women and all the array of emotions and the development of getting to know their bodies. And when I was that young, I wasn't given the skills to understand my body and to understand all those emotions, and I didn't know what to do with them. So at a young age, I pushed them away. I ran from them. And so later in my life, in my 20s, I became a bodybuilder, a competitive bodybuilder, right? And I pushed myself so hard because I wasn't paying attention to, again, certain emotions and part of my body. And I woke up one day and I could barely walk. And it was in that moment, I put on like 30 pounds in 48 hours. And it was in that moment that it was like the next piece for me, right? It was like I had to stop and feel my feelings, feel my emotions, and actually pay attention to my body in such a big way that I never knew was possible. And that was the big turning point in my life and also in my career.
Well, I can't even imagine putting that kind of weight on overnight. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. And think about it. I was getting ready for my next competition. I competed for 5 years. I was preparing in my mind to become a fitness model. And then, wow, what just came to me was a big life changer. But it was like a big eye-opener that I needed to take care of some unhealthy patterns inside of me. So now my service in the world could take on a whole different up-leveling to help people.
I love that. And that's what I'm so blessed to meet people like you that will take something that others may define it as absolutely the end all, and you answered the call. And with your knowledge of anatomy, I know bodybuilders go through. I had a friend who was one, and you need to know what's going on within you, what you're fueling yourself with. But also, the beautiful thing is I'm thinking of a lotus flower right now, how you've bloomed into the essence of who you are and teaching others to do the same. So I'm curious as to, when you started working with people, is it primarily with couples? Is it primarily with women, men, or a mix of both?
Yeah, all across the board. It's a mix to both because, it's interesting because like when I speak of intimacy and that connection, it does start with ourselves, as we all know. And even within the relationship context, if there is a couple coming to me over a 3 to 6 month period when they work with me, it's also needed that they work with me one-on-one. I don't just work with the couple because the issues that we're having are from our own conditions, they're from our own beliefs, they're from our own stories, and have nothing to do truly with the other person. The other person's right is just an instigator. They're there kind of mirroring or triggering and bringing stuff up. So it's all across the board. When I began, it was working with singles, it was working with groups. I lead a lot of seminars, and also couples and singles.
Mm-hmm.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, you work with singles, you work with couples, and you started on this journey. How does intimacy manifest itself as we get older? Is it different? I mean, I feel like it's different. I feel like I'm a different person. I'm always laughing. Nancy and I are similar age. I'm 58, and I laugh because intimacy has changed for me in a very big way. And if somebody had said to me even 10 years ago that how I looked at intimacy and how I looked at relationships and how those things came together, that I would be in a different kind of intimacy now, I would have said they were crazy. And the reason why I say that, and people know my story, I was married for 28 years, got divorced, and then got married to somebody in between, and then ended up remarrying my first husband. Mm-hmm. And we are now back together. And but and the reason, and I say this now because intimacy has changed. We were married for 28 years, so we have been in each other's life for many, many, many years, and intimacy has definitely changed in how we approach it. Is that something that's unusual, just to me, or is that something that's out there that just way it is?
I think when we're more aware, like when we're living more present in our life, we're more aware when those shifts happen. And definitely they shift. Our values change, right, as we grow, as we evolve. Even within the relationship context, if we're in a relationship, you go from this new relationship high to the middle point to like, wow, developing this very deep emotional bond. And that's also going to change the qualities of intimacy and the differences that we experience it in.
Mm-hmm.
So Nancy, do you have a question? I didn't want to cut you off over there.
I can definitely relate, and we both share that. Karen and I share an awful lot of commonalities, but my husband and I will be celebrating I'm losing track now, 36th year anniversary in March. And as I was sharing with Karen, I look at it as the chapters in our lives. Raising children. Intimacy was few. I don't want to say at a minimum, and you'd probably go, Nancy, why are you putting this out there? But what I want to share is that I can relate to young moms or just saying, I'm just losing that connection with my husband because we just don't have the time. And as I always say, with age comes wisdom, and I'm really grasping onto that. And we are of a new generation. This baby boomer generation we're not our moms, and that things end at 50. Karen was so right that it takes on that different level, and I just think it's even more like when I watched you on The Bachelor. Dominic and I go to Sedona quite often. And that is a place of a sacred place, and you can't help but, I use my hands a lot here, but that magnetic feeling, when you got the Earth's energy. And is this something that you also encourage couples that maybe they're the empty nesters now, and you look at each other and go, oh, now what do we do? And having those either getaways or staycations and devote time to one another.
Yeah, I want to tap in on a few things that you just mentioned. And one, it's like talking about having children or even getting busy in relationship is the intimacy shifts. And so when we can look at it that it doesn't necessarily leave, but now what is our intimacy looking like? Wow, we have an intimate relationship with children. We're able to have different forms of conversation with each other that might not be the same exciting, like explosive first time we meet energy, but there's still a different depth of intimacy to it. And what you just said, Nancy, was it takes, I don't want to say work, but relationships take attention, right? Mm-hmm. We need to give, there's like a plant, we need to give them attention, we need to give them nourishment. And what happens over the years, it could start happening even at a 2-year cycle, because once the chemistry, the chemical starts to change in the body, because it is a chemical reaction when we first meet somebody, is that we want to pay attention, we want to water it, we want to give it nutrients, we want to give it attention. I tell people schedule date nights once a week, make it just as important as a business meeting. Set aside that one of you are leading the way in this date, and it's a surprise for the other one. The next week the other one takes the lead and the other one follows. Go on vacations. Have different forms of ceremony, I call them appreciation showers. You want to start dedicating creative time to this relationship so it does become like you're building something, right? It's not just a plant that you're leaving to the side and forgetting to water it.
Well, that's like Stephen Covey talks about the emotional bank account, and that if couples or partners are not depositing into the bank account, you can have major, you get withdrawals as there's arguments or situations. And if people are not depositing in terms of love, intimacy, you're gonna deplete, you're gonna overdraft, you're literally gonna not have any more there. Is that something that you agree with? Don't agree with?
I do agree with that 100%. And what starts to happen as well is, because people typically aren't taught interrelating skills, we'll get into these relationships, this stuff starts to happen, and people don't talk about it in a heart-centered way, and they start to build resentment, they start to feel scared, they start to feel insecure, because people don't know how to talk about it. Right? When the bank account starts getting empty and they start to get scared, they start to project their emotions onto the other person versus, wow, let's talk about what I'm feeling. Now how can we create a situation that we can get creative and give it the fuel that it needs?
That makes total sense. That makes total sense. So do you do exercises? Is it counseling? Are you giving people exercises to do or activities to do? How does this work exactly?
All of the above. So I've been called like the intimacy of like the qigong. Like my intimacy, the way I work is similar to qigong. I'm like the wax on, wax off of intimacy, and I go to ground zero, and sometimes that's challenging for people. It's all about first uncovering their emotions, clearing the emotional body, getting them in tune with their energy body, their chi, the way I call it somatic communication, the way their body's communicating to them in different situations. And then that's ground zero. And then from there, we start to plant the new skills. From there, they start to learn new skills, new exercises. They go home and start applying different things to certain challenging situations that might already be in their life, whether that be in their personal romantic relationships or also in their work life and with their children. You know, I'm working with a gentleman now up in Canada, and he comes back week after week talking about how he's applying this intimate form of communication and connection with his children, and it's developing this new form of bond between them.
I love that, because we have so many different relationships, and how you can apply that to all of them, and how precious that is.
It is. And you talked about intimacy earlier with ourselves, that it starts with ourselves. So would you be willing right now to kind of, if we all right now want to maybe do something as an exercise to learn to be a little bit more in tune with ourselves, find that intimacy, is there something that we could take away right now that we can try later on or try right now?
We can try it right now.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So I'm going to actually have you close your eyes. And just go ahead and take a deep breath into your body. And as much as you're able to right now, bring all of your attention to the whole of your physical body. It's like you're being curious, looking for the contracted places, the tension, the breath, yeah, the energy, the bones, the muscles. It's like you're taking your eyes and you're scanning them across the whole of your body from head to toe, from toe to head. And as you bring attention to different parts of your body, visualizing the parts that are tense, relaxing, even asking those tense parts of your body what they're needing. And then as you sit with your attention on your body, see if you can draw all of your attention now to visualize a point the size of a pea below the belly button. And then very gently begin to allow your breath to enter through your mouth rather than your nose. Notice if the jaw is tight and just give it permission to relax. Allowing your breath to move through your mouth. And visualize that point the size of the pea below your belly button is actually where the breath is moving. You're inhaling through this point. You're exhaling through this point at the lowest part of your belly. And for a moment, I'm going to ask you to allow the inhale to be like a wave that's rising, and allow the exhale to be like a wave crashing onto the shore that it's letting go so quickly. And just for the next 30 seconds, you're allowing your breath to be like a wave. And what might show up for you is more tension or more openness to feel and to be aware of your body, this intimate connection with your breath, and how you can trust your body, how you can trust the relationship with yourself right now. Taking a couple more deep circular breaths. And then just allowing everything to relax. And allowing the whole of your attention again to spread throughout the entire body right now. Noticing how it feels, what it senses, sensations, temperature, emotion, thoughts. Simply thanking your body for this relationship. And then as you feel ready, just gently, gently, very slowly starting to move the toes or the fingers, but really slow right now, awakening your body with more awareness. Just stretching your body in whatever way feels nourishing. And then only when you're ready, as you're ready, to very slowly allow the eyes to eventually open. Be gentle with yourself. I would love to know what the two of you are feeling in your body.
You know, the first thing that I was thinking as we were doing that, I've done some mindfulness training, and it kind of tapped into that, the whole concentrating on the breath, and also chakra, you know, with the points in the belly. I love the breathing. I love what you just did. That really allowed me to relieve a lot of tension just with the breathing. I never considered doing that. Normally it's breathing in with the nose and exhaling with the mouth. And so it was a very interesting switch. Nancy, how did you feel about that?
Divine. Loved it. And I'm going to once again bring forth my my rebirth place of Sedona, where I learned a very powerful breath work. It is rapid breathing though, but the clarity that it, after 90 minutes of doing that, I was time traveling. I was all over the place. But this, it just gave, I'm using the word wave. It gave me that wave of just getting back to center. Yeah. And it's been a busy week, as it is for all of us. And I could just feel all of this kind of calming down and namaste.
I really like it. We have viewers. I'm watching. We have viewers on right now. So I'm hoping that our viewers actually try the exercise as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If they didn't now, this will replay over and over and over again. That's the beauty of what you do. Is sometimes people don't know how to get still and meditate and get in tune with their bodies. And that was beautiful. Beautifully guided.
Thank
you.
I
have a question, and we're getting some feedback, I think, right now. But NLP, and I know that's something that you're trained in. First of all, what is it, and how do people use that, or how do coaches, mentors, how do people use NLP to communicate and get and help their clients, their customers, their whoever they're working with be better who they are. What is NLP?
Yeah. So first, I want to say NLP is part of my background. It's not necessarily the forefront of what I give attention to in my work. But how I use it and how it's helped me in my training is allowed me to bring more attention to, I want to say, my potential. It's allowed me to bring more attention to trusting my potential and trusting the fullness of what I'm capable of. And so when I'm working with people in coaching, it allows us to go into those old belief patterns and to kind of transform them and shift them so they can actually recognize what they're capable of and what the difference is between their limiting self, or we can call it the ego, or the stories that hold them back, and then develop this really clear awareness. Well, wow, that's my story, and I see that, and I can feel where it lives within my body and within my thoughts, and now I'm able to also maybe take a few steps forward and look to the side of me, just as an analogy, and see this, wow, this is who I am, and this is what I'm capable of, and then they're able to take action from that place. And that's how it's actually helped me personally.
So I know you have a teleseminar coming up. Let's talk a little bit about that and how people can engage with you.
Yeah, so there's a couple ways. So if you're local, I know a lot of people on the call might not be local to me, but I do have a new 6-week seminar happening on awakening a new, bolder, juicier you. And that 6-week seminar is about, again, clearing the old emotional patterns, beginning to understand your emotions and feelings, and creating an alliedship, I like to say, with your feelings and emotions. So rather than pushing them away, we start to build a relationship with them and start to communicate with them and learn what they're teaching us. It's also a chance to develop new skills around heart-centered communication, around transparency, around radical honesty, and we'll be going through a lot of integrative breathwork training as well in that 6 weeks, and different heart opening ceremonies. And that's happening right here in San Diego. That begins in March. And I also have a teleseminar that's happening on March 4th, which is a teleseminar on uncovering the myths and the barriers of intimacy in our life.
So how do people tap into this? Are they going to go to your website that's listed right under your?
Best way to do that is to go right to the website that's listed, ZipporahIntimacy.com. They can register online, but they can also email me personally through that website if they have questions or if something's coming up for them. They can also schedule possibly a consultation if they're wanting to talk more about their own personal life. I offer complimentary consultations as well.
And so our listeners, just know that all the information is going to be right below here. Once the show is set on our page, you'll be able to contact Zipporah. Nancy, I'm looking at you. I'm talking with my hands. You're talking with your hands. I think I need to sit on my hands. So we just want people to know that all the information is below. So if you were sitting here not taking notes, then you can always look below. I have a question about radical intimacy. What is that?
Radical intimacy is when we live, like I mentioned at the beginning, every moment of our lives from an intimate engagement and intimate awareness. It's letting down the guard, learning to be radically honest, learning to live with complete transparency, and recognizing the interconnectedness and how it's no longer about you're right, I'm wrong, this is your way, this is my way. It's about how can we realize our interconnectedness, how can we come from a place of, I want to understand you. I may not agree with you, but wow, I want to understand you so we can create collaboration, because we don't have to have agreement to actually have love and peace and understanding. And to me, that's what radical intimacy is, every moment of our lives.
Mm-hmm. I'm right on board with you there. And there's so much value in not only attending your teleseminar, telesummit, or your workshop series, in that sometimes we're so programmed, and I know I was, to be reactive. And all that I've learned in the last 5 years is sometimes it's best not to say anything, seeing what comes up, then as you will be undoubtedly sharing other ways of presenting even just the simplest thing, not rather than assuming that someone hasn't done something. Just ask, would you please take out the trash? Let's just go very easily with that, rather than, oh, I'll bet you didn't. It's a far different response, correct?
Yes,
And
it is. Yes,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
that's
interrupt you,
okay.
but there again, how that can, you start from those simple things, and then how, when that respect comes back, and that's a word that I use often, then that's when because the memories of watching you on The Bachelor and how it was, I wanted to freeze frame it because you had them this close, and no, you're not going to kiss each other, no matter how much you want to, but feeling the breath and just that immersion into each other. That was so beautifully created, for them to experience. Because I don't know if they knew you were going to do any of this. They certainly looked like they were, what? What are we doing here? But it was a
Yeah,
beautiful outcome.